present in the way that we speak, but it's still probably there. I think the Holy Spirit is the hardest to connect with on a human level, like for us, if you're trying to build a deeper connection with the Holy Spirit, because you know what a father is, you know what a son is. We can relate to those images more easily. What is the Holy Spirit? The image in the scriptures that he shows up a lot as is the dove. At times there's tongues of fire. One of my favorite mistranslations, but it's a fun one, in the book of Acts when the Holy Spirit comes in chapter 2 is of the roaring wind, like a roaring wind fills the house where they are. I like to think of the Holy Spirit as a roaring spirit. Not like nice, gentle breeze and fluffy, but a bit more roaring wind. One of the things that I think actually really helped me understand the Holy Spirit better, I think one of the best descriptions of him shows up in The Shack. It's a book by, I forget who the author is, but it was hugely popular a while ago. And there are issues with it. It's not perfect, but one of the things that's really, really beautiful, one of the scenes that I think really communicates the working of the Holy Spirit and the relationship with the Holy Spirit is the main character one day goes into this garden that's overgrown with weeds. And the Holy Spirit in the book is named Sarayu and shows up. And so the man is weeding the garden for a while and trying to get rid of the weeds. And some of them have roots that are really deep. You ever had to weed a garden before? You know this struggle trying to actually get the whole root out because it'll grow back if you don't. And so he struggles on his own and he can't really pull the plants out. And eventually it's like the Holy Spirit comes up behind him and puts, in the case of the book, the Holy Spirit is described as female, but puts her hand with his and pulls on it, and the two together, that unity between this man and the Holy Spirit, is what begins to weed the garden. And then later he figures out that it's an image of his heart and the vices that have grown in his heart. But it's a good image of the Holy Spirit about how, like, you can work with the Holy Spirit and there's a unity of action, but he doesn't take over and destroy who you are, that you're still you. So I think it's one of the better descriptions of the Holy Spirit. If you look at the whole book, you'll probably be scratching your head and wondering a little bit. I'm not saying The Shack is perfect, but it is helpful. It's one of the more helpful images of the Holy Spirit that I've encountered, because it kind of captures that sense of cooperation and what it means that God can dwell inside of us and work in our actions and in our desires to accomplish also what he desires to do. So, encountering God as Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. This is something that takes time. We can use the human images that we have, thinking about fatherhood and what it's like. Sometimes you have to think about it in the negative sense. Fatherhood is not like this experience or that experience. Hopefully you've had some people in your life that you can point to as good examples of fatherhood, that are expressing a kind of love that is strong and fierce, but also gentle and kind and caring. And it's different than the love of a mother, and that's okay. Love of a mother is more tender and more soft. They're different kinds of love, but that's one of the experiences that we have. You can look up particular scriptures. Like I said, I don't think there's any of us in this room that don't have a broken image of God on one level or another. That's one of the things that Jesus came to teach us, is that we're not very good at this whole God thing, and we have a lot to learn. Relating to God as Father, Son, and Holy Spirit is something that takes effort. It's something that we have to work at, that we have to try to make intentionally. And this is good to think about. Like, when you pray, who do you pray to? And I'm not saying that as an accusation at all, but just like sometimes we get really comfortable with the idea of praying to Jesus, but it's good also to pray to God the Father, to pray to the Holy Spirit. Even as a priest, I've learned over the years, and I very intentionally try to do this in the few prayers at Mass that I get to say out loud that aren't written down for us, like the prayer to conclude the petitions. I try to address it to different divine persons, that sometimes I'll pray it to the Holy Spirit, sometimes to God the Father, sometimes to Jesus the Son, sometimes to all three. But that's intentional on my part, because we have to work at this relationship with the three divine persons. And it just takes effort. More and more, I've come to feel like the motto of the Christian life is discipline. Discipline, 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 discipline. If you grab on and you stick with it, you will get where you're going. If you want to learn how to pray and you want to do it better, if you don't give up, you will become better at praying. If you want to overcome a sin or overcome problems in your life, excuse me, sorry. That's the sore throat reality. It takes effort. You just got to work at it. You just got to sit nose to the grindstone. You're going to struggle. You're going to fail sometimes. And that's the way it goes. And so relating to God as Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, this is a beginning. Probably feels like a lot, but it really is just the beginning. Anyone have questions right now? Maybe a better way to ask it, what doesn't make sense to you?
I've really, for many years, I've struggled with this whole concept of the Trinity. And you and I talked about this one of the first times we met. That my feeble human brain just wants to compartmentalize everything. The Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. And it's just, it's hard for me to wrap my arms around that it's three persons in one God. I have, and I don't know if anybody else does this, but I have this image of God the Father in my head. Mm-hmm. And, so whether you're thinking of George Burns in the movie Old God, or if you're thinking of, the